Welcome back to Breaking the Pride Barrier, Episode 2. In this episode, we explore the psychology, inspiring real stories, relationships, leadership, and strategies for mastering face-conscious pride. If you missed Episode 1, watch it first on our channel to enjoy the complete journey. Now, let's get started. Part 7. The psychology behind face-conscious pride. To truly understand face-conscious pride, we need to look beneath cultural customs and social habits, down to the psychology that drives it. At its core, this form of pride is about how we see ourselves and how we believe others see us. It is a blend of self-image, social perception, and emotional regulation. From a psychological perspective, humans are deeply social creatures. For most of our evolutionary history, survival depended on belonging to a group. Being respected, trusted, and valued within that group meant better access to resources, protection, and opportunities to reproduce. Losing respect could mean social exclusion, a threat so serious that our brains evolved to treat it almost like physical danger. This is why social embarrassment can trigger such strong reactions. Sweaty palms, a racing heart, a sudden urge to escape. Neuroscientists have even found that social rejection activates some of the same brain regions as physical pain. Face-conscious pride is a modern extension of this ancient survival instinct. It's our mind's way of protecting our social standing, which in turn protects our access to relationships, cooperation, and influence. When we fear losing face, we are actually responding to an ancient alarm system warning us, "Careful, this could lower your status in the tribe." Psychologists break this down further into two components: internal self-esteem, how we evaluate ourselves according to our own standards; external self-esteem, or social esteem, how we believe others evaluate us. Face-conscious pride is the point where these two meet. We want to live up to our own ideals and to the expectations of others. If either side feels threatened, our pride reacts, sometimes by motivating improvement, sometimes by pushing us toward denial or defensiveness. For example, imagine a university student, Lon, who gives a speech in class. Halfway through, she forgets a key point. Internally, she feels she's failed her own standard of preparation. Externally, she worries her classmates and professor now think less of her. The combination of these feelings intensifies her embarrassment. Later, she might over-prepare for her next presentation, or avoid speaking in public altogether, depending on how she processes the experience. Another psychological factor is impression management, the conscious or unconscious effort to control how others see us. Sociologist Irving Goffman compared social interaction to theater. We play different roles, wear different masks, and adjust our performances depending on the audience. Face-conscious pride is one of the main reasons we do this. We polish the front stage version of ourselves to match the image we want others to hold. Interestingly, personality also plays a role. People high in self-monitoring, those who naturally pay close attention to social cues, tend to be more sensitive to face-related concerns. Meanwhile, individuals with higher self-compassion may still care about their image, but recover faster from embarrassment because they don't tie their entire worth to one moment. In short, the psychology of face-conscious pride is not about vanity alone. It's about protecting social bonds, managing impressions, and aligning our public and private selves. Understanding these mechanisms helps us see why this trait is so persistent and why it can be so difficult to change without conscious effort. Part 8. Stories of Success and Failure Related to Face-Conscious Pride. Stories have a unique power to make abstract concepts tangible. They allow us to step into someone else's shoes, to see the choices, fears, and hopes that shape their behavior. Face-conscious pride has played a decisive role in countless personal and professional journeys, sometimes lifting people to success, sometimes leading them into avoidable failure. Let's start with a story of success. In a small village in northern Vietnam, a young teacher named Ming had recently been hired to teach English at the local school. The community had never had a native-level English speaker visit, and resources were scarce. Ming took immense pride in his role. He knew the entire village looked up to him. When a group of education inspectors from the city announced they would be visiting, Ming saw this as a chance to elevate not only his own reputation, but also the image of the village school. For weeks he worked tirelessly, staying late to prepare lesson plans, practicing pronunciation drills with his students, and even repainting the classroom walls. His sense of face-conscious pride pushed him beyond ordinary effort. On the day of the inspection, his students spoke with confidence. The classroom atmosphere was warm and engaging, and the inspectors left deeply impressed. Ming's dedication, fueled by a desire to maintain and enhance his face, led to tangible benefits. The school received new funding, and Ming earned the respect of both colleagues and the wider community. Now a contrasting story of failure. In a large multinational company, a senior engineer named David was leading the development of a new product. Halfway through, a competitor released a similar product with better features. David's team suggested revisiting their design to incorporate improvements. But David, fearing that admitting flaws would tarnish his professional image, refused to change course. "We've already committed to this plan. Changing now will make us look weak," he insisted. The team pressed on, but the final product sold poorly, costing the company millions of dollars. David's pride had blinded him to constructive criticism, and his fear of losing face ultimately caused him to lose much more: credibility, trust, and leadership opportunities. Face-conscious pride can also play out in family life. Take the case of Hua, a mother of two living abroad. When her children struggled with the local language at school, friends advised her to seek extra tutoring. Hua hesitated. She worried that asking for help would make it seem like she wasn't capable of supporting her children herself. Months passed, and her children fell further behind. Only after a difficult parent-teacher meeting did she finally agree to the tutoring. The children improved quickly, but Hua admitted to herself that her reluctance had cost them valuable time, a delay rooted entirely in her concern for appearances. There are also moments when face-conscious pride helps people recover from setbacks. Consider Nam, a young athlete who lost an important regional competition. In the aftermath, he felt embarrassed, especially because the loss was widely discussed in local sports circles. But instead of avoiding the gym, Nam trained harder than ever, determined to restore his face. Within a year, he returned to the competition and won. His pride, in this case, became a source of resilience, channeling his embarrassment into focused action. These stories show the double-edged nature of face-conscious pride. When paired with humility and self-awareness, it can drive excellence, persistence, and communal respect. But when mixed with denial and fear, it can trap people in poor decisions, isolate them from support, and magnify their failures. Part 9. How face-conscious pride affects relationships. Face-conscious pride is rarely a solitary phenomenon. It thrives and evolves within the web of relationships we maintain: family, friends, romantic partners, colleagues, and our wider social network. While it can strengthen bonds through mutual respect, it can just as easily erode trust and intimacy if left unchecked. In close friendships, face-conscious pride can lead to a quiet distance. Imagine two longtime friends, An and Bing. An loses his job, but decides not to tell Bing, fearing that Bing might see him as less successful. Instead of sharing his struggles and receiving support, An withdraws, making excuses to avoid meeting. Over time, the friendship weakens, not because of a conflict, but because pride replaced honesty. Here, the desire to maintain an image robbed the relationship of the vulnerability it needed to survive. In romantic relationships, the effects can be even more profound. A healthy partnership requires open communication and a willingness to admit mistakes. But pride can turn apologies into battlegrounds. Take the case of Maria and Tom. After a heated argument about household responsibilities, Tom realized he had been unfair, yet he avoided saying, "I'm sorry," believing it would make him look weak. Days of silence followed, with both partners growing more resentful. A simple admission could have healed the rift, but pride stretched a momentary conflict into a long-lasting scar. Within families, face-conscious pride often intersects with hierarchy and tradition. In many cultures, older generations feel an obligation to maintain authority, even in areas where younger family members have more knowledge. For instance, a grandmother might resist learning how to use a smartphone from her granddaughter, insisting, "I don't need that modern stuff." Underneath, there may be a fear of looking dependent or outdated. While this stance preserves her sense of dignity, it can also prevent bonding moments and shared learning between generations. In the workplace, pride can affect teamwork and collaboration. A manager who refuses to delegate certain tasks because no one else can do it as well might believe they are safeguarding quality, but they could also be signaling a lack of trust in their team. This can breed resentment, lower morale, and stifle professional growth. Conversely, an employee who hides mistakes to avoid embarrassment might inadvertently cause bigger problems down the line. Face-conscious pride also influences how we handle conflict. In community disputes, whether between neighbors, clubs, or local councils, people often hold on to public positions long after privately realizing they were wrong. Admitting fault in front of the group feels too costly, so they dig in deeper, prolonging disagreements that could have been resolved quickly with humility. On the positive side, pride in one's role within a relationship can inspire loyalty and responsibility. A father who takes pride in being a dependable provider may work tirelessly to ensure his family's well-being. A friend who values their image as the reliable one might go to great lengths to keep promises. In these cases, pride becomes a motivator for consistency and care. Ultimately, the impact of face-conscious pride on relationships depends on balance. When we guard our dignity while staying open to vulnerability, pride can strengthen bonds. But when the need to save face overrides the need for honesty, empathy, and flexibility, it quietly undermines the trust that relationships depend on. Part 10. The role of face-conscious pride in leadership and politics. In leadership and politics, face-conscious pride often operates on a grand scale. Here, saving face is not just about personal dignity. It becomes intertwined with public image, political capital, and the ability to inspire or control entire groups. The stakes are high, because a leader's pride can shape not only their own fate, but also the direction of communities, organizations, and even nations. One of the most visible arenas where this pride plays out is in diplomacy. International relations are steeped in symbolic gestures, public statements, and calculated displays of strength. A leader who appears to lose face in negotiations risks domestic backlash, weakening their authority at home. This is why diplomatic language is often careful, layered, and sometimes deliberately vague, designed to allow both sides to maintain dignity while finding common ground. Consider the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. U.S. President John F. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev were locked in a dangerous standoff that could have escalated into nuclear war. Both leaders had to protect their nation's security and their personal credibility. Ultimately, a secret deal was struck. The Soviets would withdraw missiles from Cuba, and the U.S. would quietly remove missiles from Turkey. Publicly, each side was able to present the outcome as a win, an arrangement that allowed both leaders to save face while averting catastrophe. Here, face-conscious pride was carefully managed to achieve a peaceful resolution. However, the same pride can lead to disaster when it hardens into stubbornness. History is full of leaders who refused to change course for fear of appearing weak. In the Vietnam War, for example, several U.S. administrations escalated involvement despite mounting evidence that the strategy was failing. Admitting error they feared would mean losing credibility both internationally and at home. The result was a prolonged conflict with devastating costs in lives and resources. In corporate leadership, face-conscious pride can be both an asset and a liability. A CEO who takes pride in the company's reputation may invest heavily in quality control, ethical practices, and customer service. This can strengthen brand loyalty and employee morale. But if that same CEO resists acknowledging market shifts, believing that changing direction would signal weakness, they may lead the company into decline. Kodak, once a leader in photography, famously failed to adapt to the digital era, partly because executives clung to the image of film photography as irreplaceable. Politics within organizations also reveal the double-edged nature of pride. A department head may refuse to implement a colleague's good idea simply because it did not originate from their own team. This ownership of credit issue often stems from the desire to maintain face within the internal hierarchy, even if it means sacrificing innovation. On the positive side, leaders who channel face-conscious pride into service-oriented goals can inspire extraordinary loyalty. A mayor who takes pride in being the people's protector may work tirelessly during a natural disaster, putting the community's needs before personal comfort. Here, pride becomes a moral driver, aligning public image with genuine responsibility. The challenge for leaders and politicians is clear. Pride must be tempered with adaptability. Maintaining face can be important for stability and morale, but when it becomes the primary goal, overshadowing truth, flexibility, and long-term vision, it can trap leaders in damaging decisions. The best leaders know how to protect dignity without becoming prisoners of it. Part 11. Strategies to manage face-conscious pride. Face-conscious pride, when balanced, can be a powerful motivator. But without conscious management, it can easily become a barrier to growth, communication, and collaboration. The key lies in transforming it from a rigid shield into a flexible guide, something that protects dignity without blocking progress. First, develop self-awareness. Many people act on pride without even recognizing it. They mistake it for principle, confidence, or leadership, when in fact it's a fear of losing face. Keeping a personal reflection journal can help uncover these moments. For example, after a heated meeting, you might ask yourself, did I reject that idea because it was bad, or because I didn't want to admit I was wrong? This simple habit turns unconscious reactions into conscious choices. Second, practice controlled vulnerability. Admitting mistakes does not always weaken respect. Often it strengthens it. Leaders who say, I overlooked something, and here's how I'll fix it, model accountability. In personal relationships, saying, I was wrong and I'm sorry, can heal wounds far faster than silent defensiveness. Controlled vulnerability means you choose the time and place to reveal your humanness, framing it as part of a solution rather than a collapse. Third, separate image from identity. Your value as a person or leader is not solely tied to how others perceive you in the moment. Athletes understand this well. A loss in one game does not erase their skill or dedication. By anchoring your self-worth in long-term values like honesty, perseverance, or service, you free yourself from overreacting to temporary embarrassment. Fourth, use private channels before public corrections. In cultures where public loss of face can have lasting effects, it's wise to address conflicts privately first. If a colleague makes a mistake, calling them into your office instead of pointing it out in front of others preserves their dignity and keeps the working relationship intact. This principle works in families too. Discussing a sensitive issue behind closed doors often prevents unnecessary defensiveness. Fifth, redefine what it means to save face. Instead of equating it with never being wrong, think of saving face as preserving mutual respect. Under this definition, changing your mind when presented with better evidence is not a loss, but a mark of wisdom. In fact, the Japanese concept of kaizen, continuous improvement, reflects this approach. Improvement is honorable, even when it means admitting past mistakes. Sixth, cultivate cultural intelligence. In multicultural environments, what counts as saving face varies widely. For example, in some Western workplaces, open debate and direct criticism are signs of trust and engagement. In many Asian contexts, the same behavior might be seen as disrespectful. Understanding these nuances helps you navigate pride and dignity without accidentally causing offense or feeling offended yourself. Seventh, rehearse humility. Just like any skill, humility improves with practice. You might intentionally share a small, harmless mistake with others and observe their reaction. Most often, people respond with empathy, not ridicule. Over time, this reduces the fear that fuels unhealthy pride. When applied consistently, these strategies turn face-conscious pride from a fragile ego defense into a stable foundation for respect. They help you protect your dignity without becoming its prisoner, allowing relationships, careers, and communities to flourish. Part 12. Conclusion and Call to Action. We began this journey by looking at what face-conscious pride is, a complex blend of dignity, self-respect, and the desire to maintain an image in the eyes of others. Along the way, we explored its roots in culture and psychology, its double-edged nature, and the many ways it shapes personal growth, communication, relationships, leadership, and even global politics. If there is one truth that echoes through all these examples, it is this: face-conscious pride is neither inherently good nor inherently bad. It is a tool. In skilled hands, it becomes a shield that guards our dignity, a source of motivation that pushes us to do better, a bond that ties us to our communities. But in careless hands, it becomes a cage, one that keeps us from learning, connecting, and evolving. We saw how pride can inspire a father to work tirelessly for his family, yet also prevent a friend from admitting they need help. We examined how world leaders have balanced national dignity with practical compromise to avoid disaster, and how others have clung to pride until it dragged entire nations into tragedy. We discussed strategies to manage pride, self-awareness, controlled vulnerability, separating image from identity, and redefining what it truly means to save face. Now the question is, what will we do with this knowledge? First, we can start small by noticing our own moments of pride in daily life. The next time you feel defensive in a conversation, pause and ask yourself, am I protecting my values or just protecting my image? This single question can open the door to better choices. Second, we can create spaces where others do not fear losing face. In our families, workplaces, and communities, we can reward honesty, encourage respectful disagreement, and treat mistakes as opportunities for growth. By doing so, we not only manage our own pride, but also help others manage theirs. Third, we can reframe success. True dignity is not about never falling. It is about standing up with grace after we fall. True respect is not about always being right. It is about being willing to listen, learn, and change when we are wrong. And finally, we can commit to using pride as a force for unity rather than division. Imagine what could happen if leaders chose to save face not by hiding mistakes, but by owning them and leading the way toward better solutions. Imagine friendships where pride fuels loyalty, not distance. Imagine communities where dignity is collective, not competitive. Face-conscious pride will always be part of our human nature. We cannot erase it, and we should not want to, but we can shape it, turning it from a fragile mask into a strong, open face that can meet the world without fear. So, as we leave this conversation, I ask each of you to carry one simple practice forward. Let your pride protect your values, not your ego. Let it inspire you to grow, not hold you back. And when the moment comes, because it will, when you must choose between saving face and doing what is right, choose what will let you look yourself in the mirror tomorrow and feel not just proud, but truly at peace. That is the kind of pride worth keeping. That is the kind of face we can all stand behind. Thanks for watching. Take action today, not tomorrow. Press subscribe. And let's keep learning together. You're doing great. See you in the next one. Stay strong.